Well, welcome. Tonight I have a very, very special guest, Dinesh D'Souza, who's put an awful lot of work into creating the documentary 2000 Mules with a huge team of people and a huge amount of work. And what really sparked me into this interview was the fact that I got somebody from Fox News who told me that they were paying lawyers huge amounts of money to keep this movie from being aired on Fox News. And I thought, right, that does it. If you're going to play that game, then I'm going to go out there and do everything I can, because we have a huge audience, to get the message out. But not only to get the message out, but to get the correct website out, which is, if I put my glasses on, dinesh.locals.com. Because I have noticed already there's a number of pirate copies out there, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I think it's right with the effort that's been put in, that Dinesh and his team should be rewarded for the work they've done. And I'm sure that God has, he has no problem with good people earning money, because good people know what to do with it. It's with the bad people earning money that he has a problem. So welcome, Dinesh. A real privilege to have you.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
So tell me about what got you on this journey, because this is an incredible documentary.
Yeah, this topic is the most banned topic, certainly in the United States. They ban other topics, including COVID, but no topic is more aggressively banned than this one. So it's a topic on which you're a little intimidated about going forward with, because you can't put a trailer up on YouTube. You can't you can't buy ads on Facebook. They will literally take you down. So we had to develop a kind of a novel business plan for the movie. But I felt that the information was so vitally important. Why? Because you have one side that is dogmatically asserting this was the most safe election in history. Now, frankly, no one's ever shown that. No one's ever done any kind of comparison between, say, 2020, 2016, 2012, 2008, and shown that there was a smaller volume of fraud. So no one even does that. They just declare it. And but on the other side, there have been a lot of suspicions of fraud. I smell a rat. There were a lot of anomalies. There have been some demonstrations of episodic fraud, but I think no one has shown systematic fraud sufficient to change the outcome. So when I began to partner with this group called True the Vote, an election kind of intelligence organization, look at their evidence, I was like, wow, this is evidence of a completely different caliber than anything I've seen before. And moreover, it's very cinematic. There are surveillance videos. So this is something that people will want to watch in the form of a movie. And that's what gave me and my wife, Debbie, the idea.
Yeah, for me, it's super, super exciting, because I know things I can't talk about, because I've been working on the new quantum financial system for a number of years now. But I'm under an NDA. So there's things, and I was aware at a very early stage that there was a quantum voting system in place to watch, and it was never being officially used. It was being unofficially tested. And the unofficial testing showed very, very clearly that Biden only got approximately 20% of the vote, and that Trump got around 80% of the vote. So there was an awful lot of skullduggery. Now, when we knew that from the side that we were on, the question was, how do you go about finding out factually whether the information we've got from the quantum voting system is anything like the real situation? And that's what you've done. You've exposed exactly what we knew, but at that stage, everybody wanted to keep it very hush-hush. And I'm probably going to get my legs slapped for even saying as much as I have done. But they had all the information there, and they were watching it. They knew it was going to happen because it happened 4 years before. This is why Hillary Clinton didn't come out. She'd paid so much money to guarantee she got in, and they flipped so many votes, and she still didn't get in. And that's why she was so bitter, so angry. And of course, they just saw that was the start of the fall of the cabal.
Yeah, what happened in our case, True the Vote had an election hotline, and a whistleblower called in Georgia. There was later another one in Arizona. And what they basically said is, you know what, we're paid $10 a ballot to traffic these votes. And so True the Vote investigators said, well, are you kind of the only guy? Is this some kind of scam you're running on your own? And he goes, are you kidding me? There's an elaborate operation that's doing this. So that's what gave True the Vote the idea to buy the cell phone geo-tracking data from October 1, which is early voting, all the way to the election in 5 key areas of the country. And that provided the research basis, at least the initial research basis, because they said, once we have this data, we can track the movement of phones, and we're going to try to look for mules. A mule is just a paid operative who's hired to deliver fraudulent and illegal votes to mail-in drop boxes. Let's try to find mules who go to 10 or more drop boxes, because if you really think about it, there's no innocent reason to do that.
No, I agree with you. What you talked about there about geo-tracking, this was something else that I covered about 2 years ago, when I found out that Uber was co-founded by a collaboration between the CIA and Google for geo-tracking, to track people. And when I saw that nearly 2 years ago, I was like, wow. And going back to that stage, I remember being told, Charlie, what they're going to do is they're going to use their own tools against them. They're going to use their own numerology, their own symbology, everything that they've done against us, they're going to use them against them. And that's what we've seen now with the geo-tracking. They never dreamt that they'd be caught out with their own tools, which is geo-tracking.
Yeah, in many of the places, you don't have good surveillance video. Now, True the Vote was able to get 4 million minutes, but quite honestly, most of that is empty space. In fact, you need the geo-tracking to know where to look on the video. But many of these places that said that they would have video just didn't bother. They were in violation of the election guidelines, but they used the pretext of COVID. I don't think that they anticipated that this geo-tracking, which is used by law enforcement, as you know, it's used by the CDC to monitor if people are social distancing. Kind of funny, these fact checkers are like, geo-tracking is very unreliable. It can only tell you if you're in the vicinity of about 30 meters. Well, obviously, social distancing is 6 feet, so the geo-tracking has to be accurate to within 6 feet. Otherwise, it's not going to give you any information about whether people are really social distancing or not. So what you have here is these critics are kind of flailing against a admittedly relatively new technology, but one that's extremely reliable. In fact, Chief Justice Roberts, reviewing this technology in a 2018 case, said it's about as good as putting an ankle bracelet on a prisoner and monitoring his movements that way.
No, I totally agree. And I think one of the most important things that I've learned on this journey is I would ask every single person watching this to watch the documentary 2000 Mules. And instead of, because you have to understand the cabal will be out there doing everything they can to discredit it. And this is where I say, it's not about trusting me, it's about trusting yourself. And when you take the information, the truth makes sense. What's happening right now is the lies don't make any sense. And what they're feeding us doesn't make any sense. What's happening in America right now doesn't make any sense. And when I talk about doesn't make any sense, I said this to somebody the other day. The price of fuel in Europe has doubled. But nobody's asking why, because crude oil hasn't doubled. The price of food has doubled. But so why? Ask people why. And the truth does make sense. And when I watched your documentary, it just makes sense. And you said it very, very simply. If you're going to 10 drop boxes, I'd love to hear the reason that they said they were going to 10. I'd love to just hear what they would say, because it would have to be incredibly creative to even start to make any sense.
Exactly. I mean, if you read the fact checkers, they're counting on you not seeing the movie, because they'll say things like, well, you know, it is legal to drop off the ballots in Georgia of your family members. Well, yes, that's true. But quite frankly, even if you had a fairly large family, wouldn't you just go to one drop box? Why would you drop 3 votes in here, then make a route to the next drop box, let alone doing all this in the middle of the night? And then the fact checkers will say something like, well, it's not surprising some of these mules are wearing gloves. First of all, November is rather cold in many parts of the country. And I'm like, they're not wearing woolen gloves, they're wearing latex gloves. Yeah. So the fact checkers are really, they're doing what in rhetoric is called the argumentum ad ignorantium. They're relying on the ignorance of their own audience.
They are, and I'm not being cheeky or naughty here, but you could sort of expect 10 drops in India, Pakistan, or Bangladesh, but not in America.
That is quite true. Look, what's nice about this film, as you said, you kind of implied it a moment ago, it doesn't rely on you trusting other people. I'm not saying Mr. Smith has an affidavit and Mrs. Smith says this. I'm telling you, I'm going to put you at the scene of the crime. It's election night, 1 a.m. in the morning, and here's a guy parking in the middle of the street because it's the middle of the night. He doesn't care. He looks to the left and right, so no one's watching him. He has a full backpack full of ballots, and you just trust your own two eyes, and you'll know exactly what's going on.
Exactly. The one thing that we've learned on this whole journey is in not just America, but many other countries, that the voting has been rigged. And there's certain circumstances here in Europe. There's absolutely no way on God's earth that Macron got in with more votes because he's hated by everybody. I think even his mother hates him. I mean, to how on earth he got into power, he must have flipped I don't know how many votes. But what your movie will do is wake people up to say, hang on a second, we need to look at votes in Germany, France, the United Kingdom, Spain, Italy, Portugal, many, many other countries. Because, yes, the can of worms is being opened in America. But also, you'd have to ask yourself, your neighbors, Canada, how on earth did he get back in again? It comes down to, well, we know what it is. But now what you started to do is show the evidence. And we need hard evidence. And I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, I'm so appreciative of the work that you guys have put into this to find this information.
It's been very creepy for me. I'm an immigrant from India. As a kid, I would remember seeing, when there's election time, big trucks pull into the slums. People start handing out blankets and food. And so this is kind of vote buying in a kind of blatant way. And you begin to think, wow, Indian democracy at least has an element of a sham about it. You can't take it all that seriously. But I have believed for most of my adult life here in America, I came at the age of 17, that there's a certain sanctity to the democratic process. I walk behind a curtain, I pull the curtain, I have a ballot, I treat it with great delicacy, I vote, and then I'm counting on the system to accurately tabulate those votes. And I need to have trust that when they declare a winner, that's the real winner. And not until now, this election, as of course, our confidence in many other institutions has been eroding. Health authorities, the FBI, the Department of Justice. So this is part of I think, a greater breakdown of confidence in what previously we took to be the trustworthy guardrails of our society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing that I never thought it would go this way. I knew what was going on, but I never thought we'd go this way. But I remember when I asked the question, I said, why on earth have we had to go down this pathway? And I was told very, very clearly, if you were to tell the American people this, they would not believe you. They have to be shown. And what you're doing right now is showing people hard evidence. And this is the first domino, because we all know what happened in Arizona. But it seemed like it fizzled out because but there was a process it had to go through. And this is the process. And I think what you've done now is open the door for people who would never have dreamt that this could have happened, because the rhetoric that was coming out was, this is the most secure election ever. And they were all saying the same thing. You're absolutely right. It was secure because you rigged it to be that secure that nobody could try and find out. But fortunately, we've got some God-fearing people here. And when you've got God on your side, and the others don't stand a chance. They've only got a chance for a period of time. I'll share something with you that I found out about 4 weeks ago that I found fascinating. I was told by somebody incredibly spiritual that Satan is the alter ego of Lucifer. And Satan has already left. And Lucifer has returned to God for forgiveness. He was the fallen angel. So what we're now seeing on the ground is warriors, but they've got no source of power. They've run out of power. And that was a very moving moment for me when I heard that. And we had somebody the other day, Mark Atwood, asked Janine if that was true. And she went, wow, that is true. And that gives us confidence that Satan is no longer here. The exposure is coming. And you're part of that exposure to show people the light, to show people the truth. And the truth makes sense. And the truth will set everybody free for those people who are open to the truth. And one of the things I say a lot is it's very easy to con people, very easy. But it's very hard to convince somebody that they've been conned because we're dealing with pride.
That's a very profound observation. You know, the interesting thing about this is that when people on the left approach the movie, they write articles with headlines that go like this: I've seen this movie, so you don't have to. They're very eager to keep their audience in the dark. Now, by contrast, when I see articles critical of the movie, I share them on social media. Why? I want my audience to watch the movie. Then I want them to look at the critiques. I want them to be sort of like jurors in a case where they can put one against the other. They can see if these critiques make any sense. But the left doesn't operate like that. And so there's a kind of unevenness to this debate. Mm-hmm. The other thing we've done, which I'm very proud of, is that we have been able to turn the high-tech card against the other side in two ways. Not only using the technology of geo-tracking to bust them, but also partnering with the video platform called Rumble. Because Rumble got behind the movie, put it on their platform called Locals. We've broken all kinds of records. And so it's nice to have some high-tech firepower on your side when you're going up against Google and up against YouTube and up against Facebook. So those platforms no longer have the invincibility they once did. Of course, Elon Musk's pending purchase of Twitter has also helped because it's freed the environment. The discussion is much wider now on Twitter, and I've been able to say things that I don't think I would have been able to say on Twitter a year ago. That's very, very true. And of course, all you and I need is to have a tweet to point somebody to Rumble or to point to the Locals platform so that people can contribute. Because the one thing I've learned on this journey, when they shut me down in October, YouTube shut me down in October 2020, I made a decision to set up my own channel with my own servers so that I wouldn't be beholden to anybody. God blessed us with over 1 million subscribers in the first month, which was incredible. We finished off on Dr. Charlie Ward earlier this year on 18 million, which was incredible growth. We shut down Dr. Charlie Ward because that was run by somebody that had to get rid of in the company. And we set up charlieward.tv. And that's now, in a very short period of time, has just passed 25 million, which is incredible, considering it's not a main platform. It's our own servers. But we do have 22 other platforms that fire people into it, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Signal, whether it's Telegram, all these different platforms bring people into there. And I've got a team of 50 people now behind the scenes doing exactly that to try and get the message out. And this is right now, this is the most important message out there. 2000 Mules is a must-watch documentary because it has so much valuable information. And I know Dinesh and I have the same view. We have no problem with constructive criticism. What we don't have time for is people going, well, that's a load of rubbish, don't watch that. Come to us with anything that's constructive because the hard work has been done. The one thing I know with Dinesh and his team, they've done thorough research. So if you've just been watching the telly, then that's not research.
Well,
You're right. This is a case where we lay it out in the movie, and we even go to the extent of applying the math and showing what difference it would have made in the election. This is almost the climactic scene in the film where we say, all right, it's one thing to say there's fraud, but how much fraud? And it's not good enough to give an aggregate figure. How much fraud in Georgia would that have flipped that state? How much in Arizona? How much in Michigan? How much in Pennsylvania? So it's all laid out. The math is literally on the screen, and it's basically 7th grade math. So it's not something anyone is sort of over your head at all. It makes the film really exciting. It's clearly my most important work. And you mentioned earlier the locals platform, but quite simply, the website is just 2000mules.com, just the number 2000mules.com. And that'll show you 4 different ways to watch this movie.
Perfect. And it'd be really good for you to do a shout out for those like Catherine and like Charlie who've been involved in, and the team who've done so much work with you.
Absolutely. I have a small film team, and True the Vote has not only the 2 principals, Catherine Engelbrecht and Greg Phillips, but they also have investigators who have been going through all this geo-tracking, going through all this video. I can only imagine how tedious and painstaking it is. My job was really to take this incredible story and tell it in a manner that appeals both to the head and to the heart. So at the end, you not only know what happened, but you feel the urgency of what needs to be done.
Well, Dinesh, it's been an absolute privilege and an honor to speak with you. And I shall do everything I possibly can to get it out to as many people as possible. But a massive thank you from me personally for everything you've done. It means a lot to me to see people like you putting in the legwork as absolute warriors out there to prove what's wrong and to prove what's right. But a massive thank you. And a shout out to Dennis Rice, who put us together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you for letting me share my ideas.
100%. I look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Absolutely.
Cheers, Dinesh.